City of Romulus Planning Commission meeting for Monday, April 17th, 2023 is called to order. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 is roll call.
Roll call. We'll start with Mr. Frederick.
Here.
Mr. Glofelty. Excused.
Is he excused?
Yes.
Okay. And then Mr. McInerney.
Is excused.
Excused. Okay. Mr. Long.
Here.
Ms. Roscoe.
Here.
Ms. Jemison.
Here.
Mr. Crover.
Here.
Mr. Bobade here. And Ms. Freitag.
Here. Item 3 is approval of the agenda.
So moved, Madam Chair. I'll support.
I have a motion from, excuse me, from Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Krova, to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Krova?
Yes.
Mr. Bobade?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Jamison?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick, you already did the okay, right? Who am I missing? Mr.
Yes.
Long, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The agenda is approved. Next, we have approval of the minutes. This will be approval of the minutes of the regular Planning Commission meeting held on March 20th, 2023.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Mr. Long,
I'll second.
your second. I have a motion for Mr. Long, supported by Mr. Frederick, to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Ms. Jamison?
Abstain.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Krova?
Yes.
Mr. Bobade?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The minutes are approved. Item 5 is comments from the public on non-agenda items. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on anything that's not on our agenda tonight? Seeing no one, we will move on. Item 6, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. Old business. We have no old business tonight. New business. We have SPR 2022020, DTE remote control valve. The petitioner wants to construct an equipment compound for a remote control valve installation at 29411 Beverly Road. Is the petitioner here?
Hello and good evening. Are you able to hear me? I'm very soft-spoken. Thank you for having me and my team. I'm Kirsty Stalins from DTE. I'm in regional relations and I support Barbara, so maybe a new face here. She sends her regrets she wasn't able to join, but I support Barbara in all of Wayne County and specifically in Western Wayne. I have with me here today faces you may recognize. Our project team, Tim, Jacob, looks like, is that Azir just snuck in? And then John behind him. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim to give an executive summary.
Can we have your name and address for the record, please?
It's Kirsty, Kirstie, last name Stalins.
Thank you. Are you going to do the speaking?
I remember how I used this last time.
I need your name and address also for the record.
I will. Hi, my name's Tim Laginus. I am the manager of transmission engineering for DTE Gas. My address is 1 Energy Plaza, Detroit, 48226. The reason we're here tonight, we're going to talk about a project that we're planning on doing for all of Southeast Michigan. This is our, what we call our Van Born project. We've got one line that feeds most of Southeast Michigan. It's a 36-inch pipeline that goes from Willow Gate Station, which is just west of the Willow Run Airport, traverses essentially due east to our Melvindale facility or our Rouge station, about 22 miles. In the event of an incident on that line coming out of our Willowgate station, on a peak winter day when it's really, really cold, we have the risk of losing 160,000 customers. That is a tremendous amount of customers on the gas side. Our largest outage on the gas side is a little over 5,000 customers in the Grand Rapids area on a nice fall day. So this 160,000 customer outage would be totally unmanageable and potentially put life at risk with people not having heat. So what we did is we look at providing a redundant source of supply from a parallel pipeline, and then segment our existing line with mainline valves. If we were able to segment the pipeline with mainline valves that are controlled from our gas control in Detroit, we could isolate where the incident were to occur and minimize those outages. With the plan that we have developed here today that we're speaking to, one of the mainline valves is at the corner of Middle Belt and Beverly. What that does is then it reduces the potential outages from 160,000 down to less than 1,500. So certainly much more manageable for us. Obviously we want zero, but this would be the worst case. So we're here tonight to talk about that. And then we've worked very closely with the city planning department to accommodate what requirements are with the city here. And so what we're here to do is request approval of our site plan. So if there are any further questions, I've got Azir, Jacob, and John from our engineering team to answer any of the really detailed questions for you. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Carol, did you or anybody, do you
I
have any
can just
comments?
give you just a little bit of background, because you probably noticed procedurally that this is a little bit out of order compared to what you're used to seeing, which is something comes here, then goes to the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is happening on one of the other projects that you're going to see tonight. This one went to the Board of Appeals already. We had felt we had gotten far enough along into it, being that it was a utility installation. It had, some different aspects to it, some practical difficulty. It is an essential service. It is a public utility. So they did go to the Board of Appeals, as Mr. Frederick can tell you all about it last time. They did a great presentation, and we worked through some stuff, and there were some conditions of approval that we had recommended that the board have you guys fine tune, and that's pretty much the screening of this installation. And there were some pretty pictures in the packet. I'm sure you saw it, but we were a little bit unclear about the fence. We wanted to see some more details on that to make sure that you guys were all set with that. We wanted to make sure that the landscaping, while it looked nice and pretty, we wanted to make sure starting sizes were all right and that it was going to be adequate. So those were pretty much what came out of the Board of Appeals, and why they were to the Board of Appeals first, and then why those conditions were put on. So.
Thank you. Open it to the commissioners for any questions or comments. Mr. Grova.
I have a question for DT through the chair.
You got talking to the
DTE,
microphone.
that's you.
Thank you.
You're requesting a waiver for a gravel surface in your equipment area. What would make your piece of property unique to get this waiver?
The gravel is essential so that in the event there's ever a leak on the pipeline itself, the natural gas being methane, it's lighter than air, it will come up through the gravel. And then we do a once-a-year survey with a gas detector to see if there's any gas there. We would know it at that point. If we were to pave it or something like that, that pavement would restrict the gas from rising.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? There must be some.
Well, just through the chair, a comment from the BZA.
Sure.
DT already approached us, of course, in the opposite order of what we're used to, and their needs were strong. Location, security was asked. Was there a question of security at this location? They said it'll all be taken care of. servicing the whole region. And everything was in order, and there's like 8 or 9 people here the last time. Quite a crew to answer any questions that we did have, and there weren't any, of course. And that's the only input I got back from BZA to this commission.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Through the chair, question, can you clarify the height of the fence and what that will look like, and also the number of trees? Because I think you said something about it as the amount that's required and the amount you're proposing, there's a difference there?
That I'm going to then, the details of this I will turn over to our engineers here. Go ahead, Dave.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Grobel. I'm transmission engineering, work for Tim. As far as the height of the fence, I believe we have it listed as 8 feet within our plans. I did note there was a discrepancy on the plans. We can get that corroborated. What was the other question? I apologize.
And I noticed that as far as the amount, as far as the landscaping, the amount that required, you're proposing half.
Yes. So I know we've had a long, detailed discussion about that probably since June or July with the planning department there. With the amount of buildable area we have packed that berm within our design as about as dense as the root systems will feasibly allow it in consulting with our landscape architect through Wade Trim. At this point, if we want to expand, we believe that can be done, but at that point we would be pushing into what right now would be the Beverly Road right-of-way to accommodate that request. So in discussing with John at Wade Trim in developing our design, we believe that we've added more vegetation that was currently or is currently there on the S&F food property as part of our design. So we do feel that we have expanded the green belt on Middle Belt and Beverly currently. So that is something that we do feel like we're bringing to City of Romulus as part of our design. But at this point, anything further would be in the right of way. And that's something that we would want to put it in front of the Planning Commission for their opinion.
Yeah, the note said that you have to remove some that's already there, so you can't count that as adding to, and that there's a requirement that if the fence doesn't cover the equipment, that the greenery that you put out there needs to cover that. And there's also a note that talks about you have, I guess, a proposal of the size of those plantings that you're putting in?
That's correct. So in order to complete our construction, more or less the entire parcel area will have to be removed of the greenery that is present in order for us to install our new pipe. That area will have to be more or less cleared of the existing foliage. We'll do our best to maintain those and make them available to the current landowner if they want to replant them. If they're available by the end of our restoration period to replant on our property, then that'll be great. But as part of our current contract with our construction contractor, it's part of our restoration plan as also part of the landscape plan in our document there to include that as the final document. So essentially what you're seeing there is we are moving everything in that area and then replanting everything as a final plan. So that's why things may look conflicting, but it's essentially going to be a blank slate. Then you're seeing a final picture.
Can you maybe show the picture
Yeah,
of those
I apologize.
cross sections that show the? I think it'll
See
be
if I can-
helpful when we're looking at it.
So this is our final state landscape plan with the berm. That's the green mound more around the north and east side around the Beverly and Middle Belt Road. So that is what we would be proposing as the final state of the plot plan, essentially, and the station design.
Do you have that sheet that actually shows, where you can, it's sort of more of like a rendering, it's got the fence detail on it?
Yeah, I think so. That one.
No, it's another one, it's the one that actually has the details on it. You might not have it in here.
I think I replaced it with the fence.
Oh,
here for
okay,
this
good,
one.
yep, that's just what we wanted to see. Yep.
I read that we were looking for photographs this time.
Yep, oh, that's good. If you guys like it. We were confused, there was a detail in there that it's right there, but it kind of implies that it's a chain link fence with the block, the mesh on it, but then the rendering had more of a pretty fence like that. So we had even wondered if that inside, whatever, your fence block is even needed with all the plantings in front of it, or do you guys like it for security?
So, and that is one thing, and John can come up here and correct me at any time, but as part of our discussion earlier with the landscape architect, he was able to confirm that the starting height of most of those taller screening plants will be about 12 feet. So that should block out the 8-foot fence that we're proposing. But to your point there, the screening of the interior fence that we were proposing here, that right detail, was more or less intended to just cover the fence and keep any sight lines from the interior of the fence from Beverly Road or Middle Belt Road obscured from the street before those plants matured, essentially.
Yeah, if I could just, John Cecil, I'm with Wade Trim, 500 Griswold, Detroit, Michigan. Just as Jake was saying, if you could just understand, the fence is in, the site that you saw with the L shape, that's a 3-foot high berm. And in the trees that we are proposing are 12-foot and 20-foot with 3.5-foot shrubs around that. And the fence is on the inside of the berm for security reasons. So there's adequate screening on both sides of both Middle Belt and Beverly Avenue.
Thank you.
Are you all set?
Yes, Ann, thanks.
Through the chair, if I may.
Pardon me?
Through the chair, if I may.
Oh, go right ahead.
In regards to the comments for the landscaping, the current plant material list that's listed on the landscaping sheet, it does not reflect those sizes that were just noted. So if those are the intended sizes, it should be part of the resolution. And then those would need to be updated in an administratively reviewed package. While we do agree that there is a lot of vegetation on the berms right now, if they are looking to be decreased from the requirements of the ordinance, they do have to request a waiver, and it's about half of what is required is what they're providing.
So, yeah, as you could, yeah, I think, I mean, the reason being, like Jake had explained, with the tight scenario of just where our property perimeters are, to add more shrubs or trees of that nature, it would be very cluttered. And I don't know if that would be even a nice thing to look at with all 30 more shrubs shown on this plan, unless you extend it into the right-of-way on Beverly.
So are you requesting a waiver for the landscaping?
Yeah, we would like to request it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
Through the chair, I have a follow-up question.
Go right ahead,
for-
sorry.
Yeah, Jessica. So if what I'm hearing is correct, what they had in the plans were probably shorter and smaller, which meant they were probably more narrow. Now they're proposing taller, which means they're wider, so that's why they're proposing less? Am I hearing this correct?
I don't know that it's being proposed as less because the initial sizing is greater. I am in agreement with them that the length of the berm that they have available to vegetate is short. When you are taking the entire frontage, which includes the driveway, and you have such a small frontage to begin with. I want to say that's 150 feet along Beverly. The percentage of unusable or unlandscapable area is greater. So if they are going to propose taller and larger shrubs and taller and larger trees, then they will have adequate coverage or screening. But I can't say that is a consideration that they can give for the waiver request that they are currently asking for. Now, the waiver request was not on the plans, and the calculations do need to be changed to include the entire frontage. So with the 181 feet, they needed 6 deciduous trees. They're proposing 3, 6 evergreens where 3 are proposed, and 2 ornamental where 1 is proposed. And then the number of shrubs were 55 were required and 20 have been proposed. And if indeed they're going to be larger plant material, we would support the waiver.
So could this be something, technically, the way the ordinance reads is these things, it's the perimeter of them. So we're focusing here on the 2 frontages, but is it visible if you're coming, if you're going north on Millbelt Road, the area between the S&F addition and this new facility, could some of these plantings to meet the requirements be shifted and put in that, even on the S&F property? We haven't seen the plan as to where the stuff that's here is going on the S&F property. We've reviewed that, but not, some of the landscaping's already in, but in terms of where you're taking these things, the plan's really confusing, as to what's going where.
Well, we're not putting anything on the S&F property.
So
the only thing that
where's all the stuff that's on the S&F property now going then?
I don't think I understand the question.
Where is the landscape material that you're relocating or removing for the construction of this to go?
Oh, I see your question. There's 3 trees that we're trying to save that are currently on the S&F within the influence of this project. And since they're on the outside perimeters, I can go up there and point them out for you if you like. Our thought was to just try and save or relocate those trees if we could, just to save the trees. And they could shift down, I guess, south 2 trees, and then the 1 tree could possibly remain or go to the west. And some of the plant material that you see at either on the west side and the south side that says planting to be restoration. That's just where the construction limits are, and we'd like to just blend that back into the S&F food landscaping. And there's a note on the plan, note 8, that just says that, the contractor needs to blend in the bedding edge to meet the existing bedding edge with the same material. If not, put in 4 inches of topsoil with 4 inches of mulch to match the color that's currently there. So all we were trying to do in that scenario was just to blend in at the property lines where the S&F food planting beds, I guess, if you want to call them. I think they're just mulch beds mostly with some shrubs, if I'm not speaking out of turn there.
What I am calculating, or what I'm counting on your existing conditions sheet, there's 13 trees that are going to be disturbed or removed.
They may be, okay.
Yeah, we were real, these, like the little stars and there's all sorts of stuff on here that we really weren't sure what it all was.
Well, I'm not, that's something we could coordinate with the S&F folks. As to what their landscaping plan shown. I don't think we had that plan available to us at the time, but we could surely coordinate that, if you like.
But going back to Carol's discussion is that the intent of the ordinance is to have the perimeter screened. So if, as you're going northbound on Middle Belt, you can see into the fenced area, it's an opportunity to put some of those landscape trees on the south side of the facility.
We could surely take the 3 trees that we're trying to relocate and relocate them to the south side, so they're in an orientation that's screening. If you're driving up Middle Belt Road, it'll screen the backside of the proposed project.
Then what about these other trees that are being taken out? Because you've got to, those have got to go on the S&F property someplace. So they were requirements for that site plan, so they can be used in that area, if you want. In this area where it says planting bed restoration, you're doing that. You're talking, the south sides, that area in between, there's a perfect location to relocate all this stuff. We just need to see it on a plan. And then that could, meet the intent of screening that perimeter over there.
If the trees are healthy and they can be relocated, I don't see that as a problem.
No, I think that can be accommodated.
Yes.
So then the extra trees, if they didn't meet, rather than getting a waiver, can't they just put them there as part of the perimeter stuff?
Yeah, the extra trees could be planted on the south side. Again, going back to, you can't reuse S&F's trees against your requirements.
Right.
Because those were a requirement for S&F. And even though this is a chunk of property out of S&F's, they still have a frontage that was the same length that was previous. So those need to be placed back, but if you, I agree that along the south edge, you could probably plant some more vegetation per your requirements, and not have to ask for a waiver for that total amount that you're deficient right now.
Okay.
So basically, if they want to request a waiver, they would have to increase the size of the vegetation they're putting in right now. Like if it was like 2 to be 4.
Right, it's got to be offset somehow.
Okay, so for us to even consider a waiver, they have to agree to,
But the question is, why do they need a waiver? The waiver if it's in exchange for a size,
Right.
but when it's this,
Well, I just want to revisit that, adding additional trees on the south side. We have 5 feet from our property line, 5 to 10 feet on our property line between the S&F food. There's also a storm pipe that runs from that pond out to Beverly Road, which will include an easement. So we don't really want to plant trees within an easement in case you ever have to go into that easement and take trees out to repair a pipe.
probably I was just going to say that, yep, just pulling it up right now. We're coming up with the solve. Yeah, I think there's room in there on that north side of that addition.
Yeah, it would be helpful, in order to work with your neighbor and put the trees either on the property line or even within the S&F, just to provide the coverage or the screening that we're looking for, that helps both you and S&F, because they still need to have those trees somewhere on their property.
We can take their trees and relocate them. I guess it's, are you looking just for trees along the south property line or trees and shrubs? Because I don't see how we can fit 35 more shrubs without making it look too busy or
Gaudy.
it's just going to look,
I think
it's not
that,
going to look very cohesive.
I don't think 35 will fit there, but you certainly can put maybe 5 to 7 shrubs and then a couple of those trees. So again, you're blocking the view from Middle Belt Road because you don't have a berm on the south side. So that's going to be a direct line of vision into the facility.
Yeah, I don't know what the taller height would be. I mean, if the height is 20 feet.
So where do we stand on that now?
Yeah. So the other question we have to ask about is that sign too. But over in there.
Yeah. I mean, there's, all of these trees are getting impacted.
Yeah.
So they all could be placed
Right here.
right in there.
We could probably work that out administratively with them. Do you think?
I do. There is a potential that they might be still deficient, so if the resolution could allow us for the opportunity to change or work with them with the number that are required.
I mean, if we,
Seems like when you come up this way, where they're going to be sitting, that building is going to screen it 90%.
Yeah.
Because when I come up that way, every single day, I don't, to me, there's this much room for it. To me, when I look at this, I'm like, this right there? These trees here.
Carol, I have a question. So it seems like it's kind of an administrative thing.
It is.
Is there something that we can approve where this could be dealt with later? You know, it's not
That's
a
what
total
Jessica
waiver.
that's what she
but
was suggesting.
You can maybe
Yeah.
decide to go with less shrubs to make it look more pleasing. And even one of the comments is if the equipment compound is visible, additional landscaping will
Right,
be
can go
required.
in. So Jessica, what do you think about the wording? If they do end up needing a waiver on these requirements, so how
Can the
many?
waiver be granted based on the administrative review?
Yes.
If that can be put in the resolution, then we can review it and make sure that the planting makes sense.
So what we can
So
do
it'd be a
is,
landscape waiver agreed upon by the administrative review? Is that?
well, it's a waiver to the landscape buffer requirements if needed,
If necessary.
if necessary,
Okay,
as determined after administrative review.
okay. Okay.
Landscape buffer.
Somewhat.
If determined.
Is the intent
necessary.
still to have the larger sizing than what's being currently shown in the plans?
what's currently shown are 20-foot trees for the 3 canopy trees, which is typical for a 3-inch caliper tree. 12-foot trees for the ornamentals, which is typical for that. The evergreens are 8 to 10 feet, and the shrubs are 30 to 36 inches in height, which is all typical. I don't see how, we could look into adding a larger size tree, but.
Sorry, you had just mentioned a 3.5-foot shrub, and these are only 3 foot. So it's fine if this is what you're going to.
Oh, I'm sorry,
be-
30 to 36 inches, so 3 feet, that's the initial height of all the trees and shrubs. So they would grow from there.
Well, yes, we know that, but the initial sizing is what is supposed to be listed in the plant materials. So if you're intending only to do the 30 to 36-inch shrub, which is what's the minimum that is required by the ordinance, that's fine. We just want to make sure we are adequately representing what you are going to be planting.
Okay.
So Carol, would this wording be all right? It would be a waiver for the landscape buffer, if needed, determined by the administrative review. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Are you in agreement with that?
I believe so.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was happening with the S&F food sign? Is that going to be in an easement?
So
Is it-
that is something that, due to the quitclaim deed, when we moved the site development further south, that became part of our development. It was not initially part of our development overlapping. So that is something that will need to be part of our discussion with.
Okay. Is there?
Do you have a question, Mr. Long?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
In regards to the landscaping and maintenance of the facility, I know this is not a facility that you will often be visiting. Would that be contracted out, or how does that, for maintenance?
We do have an irrigation system installed as part of our plans. As far as maintenance goes, that will likely be part of our regular O&M system. We do have some maintenance workers, I believe, and as far as some work, and I think Tim can jump in, we do have, I think our operations team does have some work for our summer students every once in a while, where they go out and trim trees and cut grass and do some work, and high school summer students and whatnot, so that's part of that program too.
Yeah, because we asking for all of these here trees and shrubs and maintenance and everything. And when I was down taking a look at some of the other businesses down off of Beverly Road, you know, with everything that's required over there, it's not being maintained. So that's why I asked that question. You know, we have a lot of requirements, but we don't follow up with our maintenance program to make sure everybody is in conformance. So we need to look into that too as a city. But thank you for answering that.
Mr. Frederick?
Not really a question, well, I guess it's a question. How many of these valves are going in this 22-mile line? I remember you said at the BZA.
Total of 5.
Like 4 additional in other municipalities. It's just a point of interest. Thank you.
Now, one other comment. You're not going to ask for another rate increase, are you?
That's the other company.
Keep that as
We're doing all this to prevent outages.
all right.
Let's see what they say. So are we at a point where we can make a motion yet, or no?
I think so. Do you think so? Is there anything else you need?
No, I'm
resolved?
good.
You think so?
But we're definitely going to need to look at a revised plan and with all of the outstanding comments, but we, I think, can easily handle it administratively.
Alrighty,
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
right.
I would like to approve the site plan for SPR 2022-020. It's the DTE remote control valve, subject to the 4 items in the summary, plus an additional 5th item. That item would be a waiver for landscape buffer if it's needed, determined by the administrative review.
I'll support that if needed. There's nothing additional.
Who seconded it? Now, do we need to read these out for the record, or the 4 or 5 items?
These conditions?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
No? I mean, they've got a copy of them, so I'm sure.
Right, they have a copy.
Alrighty. So, I have a motion from Mr. Prova, supported by Mr. Long. To approve site plan SPR 2022-020 DTE remote control valve, subject to the 4 items plus the waiver with regard to the landscaping listed on page 6 of the planner's letter dated April 11th, 2023. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Mr. Prova?
Yes?
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Ms. Jamison?
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe? I'm sorry, I apologize profusely. Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Robade?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, the site plan is approved.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Say some outages, that'd be great.
Excuse me. The next item we have is SPR 2022, I'm sorry, that's SPR 2022-023. Nishat Yanto, is that correct?
Actually, I'm Hadir Alton on behalf of my brother, Nashad Yellow, sitting next to me. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, and you're asking approval for a parking lot at 28305 Goddard Road?
Yes,
Okay, you're asking to pave the asphalt parking lot for an existing building?
yes.
Okay, are you going to go ahead and
Well,
make a presentation?
Can I speak on his behalf?
I'm sorry?
I'm speaking in his behalf, my brother's behalf.
Okay.
We're bringing, the property already exists in a building, we're gonna bring it up to the code, and we have a potential tenant, code to code, a plumbing company and landscaping company. In order for us to bring this tenant there, we have to bring it, to have a parking space for them. And we brought, the property up to the code where it was before, was a mess. We picked up almost 10 to 15, 40-yard container of debris from the back. It used to be a mobile home, trailers, and old cars, and all kind of debris in the back of the property. I don't know if you guys noticed about it. It's been there for so many years.
Yeah, could you please state your name and address for your
I'm
record?
sorry.
Hadir Alton, Hadir, last name is Alton, 31077 Pine Coin Drive, Farmington Hills, Michigan.
Thank you. Any comments from?
Well, as you can see, there's a lot of cleanup needed on these,
Right.
but we had reviewed it 4 or 5 times and wanted to get it to you because they do need a variance as well, and we needed to get them on the BZA agenda, which will be in May.
Okay.
And we think some of the issue may have been that there's different design professionals, unfortunately, they couldn't be here tonight, that put these plans together, and they have differing, numbers. So you're seeing a lot of inconsistencies with setbacks and that kind of thing. The use is a big issue here, and you're mentioning possibly a plumbing company or a landscaping company?
Yes, ma'am.
So like a landscape contractor?
Correct.
Okay, with outdoor storage?
No. They're not gonna, it's like for their equipment, whatever their
So
equipment.
like their equipment would be
Yes.
outsourced? So that's going to require a special land use?
Well, that's, again, I don't know, whoever the tenant is gonna be accordingly to the city ordinance. We're not gonna validate, validate any city ordinance or anything like that. And they have to apply for a permit too also for their
Right.
their
So
license business.
Right, we just want to make sure that you understand you may have to come back before this group.
Of course.
Because they're going to then need to review outdoor storage, which may go beyond these limits.
Gotcha.
You've got a lot of property there that you could use. So we just, and that is, I think, reflected in the conditions, approval. But again, we've got to look at a variance. At the side, there's, probably you saw, there's a residence to the east. And while they worked with that, it's a new resident there that was okay with no buffer, but we're a little bit uncomfortable with the variance tightening up from the 50 feet down to about 15 feet. We'd kind of like some solid fencing in there. There's an existing fence out there now that literally covers that area where the housing portion is. The city attorney was very uncomfortable with the statement on the plan that the city would not have any, the ability to enforce it. So that's one suggestion that we're making, and we wanted to get that to you guys before it went to the Board of Appeals, when they considered that variance. So there's also waiver requests is, in terms of the buffering again. And again, the bigger issues were some of the use, which we just wanted to make sure that the applicant was clear, because there is half of that property that's not being proposed for development right now. But we're happy to see it improved. We're happy to see a parking lot put there and getting a little property back, hopefully back on, back on our list of viable projects. So just a lot of cleanup to these plans to be done.
Great. Did you have any other comments? Or want me to turn it over to the commissioners?
I'm sorry?
Did you have any other comments? or
No,
do you want me
no,
to
no.
turn it over to the commissioners?
No,
at this
no
time?
comment, no. Thank you.
Alrighty, I will turn it over to the commissioners for questions and comments.
Yes.
Ms. Jemison? And then
Yeah,
Mr. Long.
I do have some concerns as well. If there is a residential home there, regardless of the area becoming primarily industrial, there still is a home there. In the event that they turn it over to a family member, they may not like that narrowing area where there's no screening. So I think that's highly important that you consider whether they say they like it or not now, that's going to change, and homeowners have a tendency to do that, so.
Between us and the joint neighbor,
Mhm.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, we already ordered the fence, the fence been ordered, but I mean, if they're required to put a wood fence, between us and them is not a problem. We'd have no issue with that. And even if I can get, not a waiver, even though we have the self fencing is already in an order, there's a special, how should I say it, was like a 6 feet by 16 feet long. They sell them on Amazon like a mesh cover. We can put it on both sides of the fence. To be privacy. This is my if I can get if I can get approval with that. If not, I will put the wood fencing. Not a problem.
Carol, what-
Sometimes we have problems, Jeff can probably address it better, but
Yeah.
sometimes with that mesh that goes up, we run into problems with durability and maintenance over time. I don't know if there's other products out there. What did you order already?
Well, I got we have the fence, but if
You ordered the chain link?
yeah, chain link.
Is
Yeah,
it black?
Yes, it is. But
It's black chain
yeah.
link?
But if we have to, if you guys requesting the wood fence between us and neighbor, we'll put the wood fence. Not a problem as a privacy.
Is the black vinyl coated chain link up yet?
And the front of it, the side, no, is not. Only the front.
Is it permit? Do you have a permit for that?
No, we haven't submitted permit yet because we're waiting for for the approval for the plan. If the plan get approval, we're gonna submit permit.
But the
The
fence
fence
in
is
front's
not
been
up.
up, right? It's not,
It's not
you didn't
up.
just newly install the fence in the front, right? That's been up.
Well, after the house where the building is, where the building is. I think that's what he has in the plan, Kevin.
When did the fence get installed?
No, we haven't installed it yet. We have
Oh,
not. No, I'm
okay.
sorry. We have not installed the
Okay.
fence. No, we have not.
There's different kind of screening, so it just depends on the product for the chain link. I know there's different types. Some of the stuff's pretty chintzy. They do make some, so it really depend on what the product was for that screening on that chain link. I've seen some pretty nice stuff, but then I've seen some stuff that doesn't last.
I can get you the gauge or, what kind of material it is. I don't know what it is, I'll be honest with you. It's a specialized fencing company.
So is that correct, then you don't request the waiver? You just said you,
I'm sorry?
You don't want the waiver for the fence.
Whatever the planning department they require from us to do, we'll do it. If they want us not to put a fence, we'll get away without a fence, the fencing in the front. But we request for privacy. Whoever is the protection tenant, they're gonna need some kind of security for their stuff. For their car or their equipment.
okay, I imagine the planning department would rather have the fencing standardized like they require from other places. Okay, so then that would be number 2, no waiver then. Number 2 on the agenda?
Number 2 is the waiver to the buffer requirement. So what's happening is that they need a variance on the setback on the side. It's supposed to be 50 feet, it's only 15. That's a variance. So there's also a buffer requirement of landscaping and fencing and something solid along there. So narrowing that down to a 15-foot area, we weren't real comfortable with the neighbor saying they didn't care and didn't need anything, or this chain link fence. We wanted something solid. So that's what number 2 is, that we're recommending you approve it, subject to a waiver to the buffer requirement between the industrial and residential, subject to a 6-foot-high solid privacy fence, replacing the existing chain link fence that's on the plan that was being taken down. But it sounds like they've purchased already fencing to go along there. It sounds like they're asking to be able to use that.
Okay, so then if they have the fencing, they're gonna install the fencing, does that change any of the wording in the 10 comments?
It's dealing with number 2, and it would be changing,
They would still have the buffer requirement, but not the,
well, they've only got 15 feet in there, so there's not a
Yeah.
whole lot they can do.
yeah, they need
That's why
that.
we were hoping for a solid fence between that resident.
And you don't mind a solid fence, do you? You said,
I'm sorry?
You don't mind a solid
No,
fence, do you?
I don't mind it. And again, if you want me to get a waiver from the neighbor, I can have a waiver from the neighbor, statement from them.
Yeah, the neighbor, we like
If
you to
not-
work with the neighbor, but we understand this is a new neighbor, may even be a rental, it's been a rental house in the past. Property is zoned industrial, but used, and it's very tight.
Right.
It's very, very tight, so.
Well, again, we don't mind, solid fence, not a problem.
Well, the letter you have signed on the last page here, the note from the neighbor,
Yes,
okay, is this the neighbor that we're talking about?
yes.
Okay. I guess we need to have his signature notarized.
We would if we were to consider it, but
Okay.
the city attorney said that statement's gonna be very, very difficult to enforce.
Okay.
Where it becomes a burden on the city is, depending on the neighbor that's living there, that the owner may be fine with it, he may not even live there.
Right.
But you get renters in, and all of a sudden, say you do have a landscape contractor there, say you have anybody back there that's making just a little bit too much noise, or working hours, or something, then we get the calls, we get the complaints.
Right.
And our responsibility is, because we require this buffer in between residential and industrial, and we're already waiving the distance way down just based on existing conditions, we thought the best, just maybe having a solid fence, would prohibit headlights, would prohibit, noise, help obscure some of that. So it's unfortunate that you purchased a fence without, going through this. I don't know if somebody's got a solution. What do you guys think?
I believe we should try to protect the residential property and go with the 6-foot-high solid privacy
Right.
fence. Yeah,
Right.
just like what number 2 says. A 6-foot-high solid privacy fence, replacing the existing chain link fence.
That's fine.
Because the neighbor, do you know if the neighbor is he the landowner or
Yeah,
is he
they
a
are.
renter?
They just purchased it recently, about, I would say 6 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, just to follow up, I think it's probably a fair way to be if you're encroaching that much closer on the property, and if whoever you move in there, if they want security, you would want a solid fence. Also, whatever materials they have, if there's wind blowing, that helps that not blow into that neighbor's home, because we've had that happen on Beverly Road once before, so.
That's fine, not a
That
problem.
makes everybody happy. You get your variance for narrowing that space, but then we get our solid wall to protect the residents.
A wood fence or that vinyl fence, what would be recommended?
Well, usually what's required, if I'm not mistaken, is a
Vinyl's probably
solid.
better, it's more
Vin-
durable.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
A brick wall would be nice.
Do you still have a question, Mr. Long?
Yes, I did.
And then
I
after
was-
that, Mr. Frederick.
I was going to make a comment as regards to the fence. What's normally between a business and a resident is normally a solid brick fence or a barrier. But seeing as though, I guess, vinyl to just stop any debris, lights, and all of that would be acceptable for me, if it's acceptable to the neighbor or the owner and the rest of the board, so. Because you are dealing with a real narrow property there. I understand your dilemma too, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes, through the chair. It's interesting that the letter from Damon Pierce, the neighbor to the east, is in the site plan, but that didn't appear in our packet, or, from the city. Is that letter on file with the city?
No, it came in on the site plan.
Okay, because Damon Pierce, he's representing himself as the owner of the property, not our renter.
Right.
Just a point of interest.
The property in the past had been used as rental property. The assessors got some information, different addresses and stuff, so they're kind of investigating what's going on. The bottom line is, that could change tomorrow. I mean, the
Right,
owner
yeah.
may say, yeah, I bought this and I'm gonna live here the rest of my life, but could turn it into a rental tomorrow, could sell it tomorrow.
Yeah, I just
So
wanted to make it a point of interest that
Yeah.
he's representing himself as the owner, and that this did not appear from the city packet.
Right, no, we never got the original letter. That's why the initial concern was, and any time that we take that, unless it's somebody that's coming and vouching for the fact that it's really them, get it notarized. But then when the city attorney started looking at it a little closer, he said, oh my goodness, that's gonna be very difficult to enforce. So even if we got a notarized signature on it,
So it's also saying something about a berm. But is there room for a berm?
there's a little 1.5-foot berm in there, correct? Is that the area where it's small? In that 15 feet?
That's the stormwater,
Oh, is that what it is?
yeah. So
Oh,
that's not a
okay.
berm at all.
That's not a berm, there's no berm in
No, there isn't.
No,
No.
okay.
Do you have something to say?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, I just seen on the second page, it says 1.5 foot high.
Yep.
And it's showing a berm past the existing buildings on the neighbor's east property, past his garage. I have a concern that would cause perhaps flooding on the eastern property. It may even flood now, I don't know, but I know when you raise an elevation, you're putting your storm runoff onto your neighbor's property.
So we're gonna have issues with drainage, or what's drainage?
I looked back there, I didn't see it.
Because that's the situation that we have on Ecorse Road with that property at Ecorse and Inkster flooding the neighbor.
Right. Right, yeah. Is someone living in the house right now?
It's vacant.
It's vacant?
So if in regards to the berm height, if a solid fence is placed there, that 1.5 foot would have given screening from headlights. And if the solid fence is faced there, then I would say that the berm, would it have to be a waiver to not put the berm in?
It actually is it's all getting tied into the one big buffer
Waiver.
Yeah, that it's, in lieu of the buffer and the associated plantings and berm, wall, whatever, you have some flexibility, and so
Yeah,
what's happening is that it's gonna be a waiver to all of this stuff subject to that fence.
in order to not potentially create any drainage issues, I would recommend the solid fence and then making that more of a swale instead of a berm in that area. And it can be planted with natives or rain garden type material.
I know the bioswales have become more popular.
Correct. Yep, so I would say that that's something that we can review and take care of during the engineering review phase. And if the solid fence was, the 1.5 foot was there to help block any headlights. So the solid fence would provide that screening.
Okay, so with that taken care of, so the house was 1939 to the petitioner. Do we know what year the pole barn was attached to it?
I don't have no clue. You mean the building? Was already existent, everything was existent there.
I know, I used to go to school with a guy that lived there, and they used to have cows in that barn.
Again, I don't have no clue, I'll be honest with you.
All right, is there a floor in the barn?
I'm sorry?
Is there a floor in there?
Yes.
Solid floor.
Is there a foundation,
I'm sorry?
like a rat wall foundation?
Whatever the beams, I mean, whatever the support of the building is, like the structural, there's, yeah.
Because description of a pole barn is it wood posts?
No, it's
Steel.
all iron, it's all
Wrought
iron.
iron, red
It's
iron.
heavy duty, very heavy duty. It's like a industrial building.
Look it up.
Red iron, yeah.
I mean, very, very well built.
All right, thank you.
And the home itself, excuse me, Madam Chair, the
Yes.
home itself will be used for the business, not residence.
That's correct.
Speaking on that, so with the home, because right now, it got a CO within the last couple of years as a residential home. Now with it being switched to a office, when it goes through, whenever the tenant comes in, you might want to look at, because I seen on the plan, there's a handicap parking spot. And I know if you look at like the Michigan existing building code, I believe I think it's section 410. There's certain requirements for existing buildings. It's less extensive than like the new code, but like if there's a handicap spot and it's an office and you're changing use, you have to provide an accessible route and maybe an entrance. So that's just something to keep in mind when it comes time to submit for somebody to want to know.
Like a ramp, or,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it can be, yeah, it would be a way that they can get from wherever that handicap spot is into that office. Now, with the existing building, it's not as much to do as if it was a brand-new building where you don't make everything accessible, but I think there's 6 requirements that you have to meet, and one of them's handicap parking, one's an accessible route, and an accessible entrance. So you gotta have that person that can get from that handicap spot into wherever that office is if they're coming into the business.
that's understood. We'll make it up to the code.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Are we ready for a motion or no? Yes?
I think so. Do you guys have
Ready.
anything else to decide on?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Grova? Yes.
I'd like to approve site plan SPR 2022-023 Nashat Yaddle parking lot, subject to the 10 comments that are in the summary provided by the planning.
Support.
Yep.
I have a motion by Mr. Krova, supported by Mr. Boade, to approve the site plan SPR 2022-023 Nashat Yago parking lot, subject to the 10 items that are listed in the planner's report dated August 13th, pages 7 and 8. Any discussions? Mr. Krova?
Yes?
Mr. Obade?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Jamison?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Bye-bye. Okay. Next, we have PC cases involving advice or input from the Planning Commission.
Not tonight.
Nothing?
Nothing. Do you have anything you needed their advice from?
Not at
You?
the moment.
Well, gosh, somebody must be doing their job over there.
No.
Okay, item 10, reports on interest designation. Does anybody have anything to report? Ms. Roscoe?
I have a few things.
Okay.
First of all, just let everybody know that yard waste is up and running again. It started last week. So put your yard waste out in the appropriate containers or yard waste bags to be picked up. Just don't pile them up unless you're bundling them the way the ordinances have you do that. And I know they're still doing a lot of cleanup in the city, so just to let you know that when you see some of that out there, I know they're still cleaning up some of those areas from the storm. The other thing, very important thing, is that the public comment part of the hazardous waste facility has been reopened. And what that means is that the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, we call it EGLE, E-G-L-E, has reopened comment periods until May 3rd. And the best way to get the information you need to make those public comments is to go to www.romulus.gov and go underneath. There's a whole flyer there, gives you all the information, gives you some suggestions of the comments and things that they want to hear about in that letter that you want to send. And it gives you an email address to send to, or you can mail it. And like I said, it's kind of lengthy, so I would suggest that you go there, get all the information you need, send your emails, send your letters. It's very important. It has to do with the hazardous waste facility, the Republic Industrial and Energy Services, and where they were bringing up all that waste from the train that was derailed and different things like that. But the main thing is we had to fight a little bit, a whole lot, to get that public comment part reopened, and so they'll look at your comments. So that's very important to do that and get your letters in. As I say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and we're not going to let them forget that we're keeping an eye on all that, and we don't want that happening here. So anyways, that's the first thing. Second thing, well, I have a few things, so let me tell you a few things that we have going on. Goodfellows is starting their fundraising. They do a lot of good works when the holidays come for needy families and so on and so forth. And they've got an event coming up at the VFW, the Cinco de Mayo party. And it is on May 5th, of course. It says enjoy food, fun, and raffles for $20. You gotta be 21 or older to come. And it's, let me see what time it starts. Starts at 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock on May 5th. So if you want more information, you can call 734-322-7680 to get your tickets or get more information on that event for the Goodfellows. And then we have Clean Sweep coming up in April 29th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And they're going to meet at the Athletic Center and get your assignments as to where to go to clean up in the city. And then they're going to meet back over at Blue Sky after they're all done with all the cleanup in the city. And again, if you want more information for that, excuse me, you can call 734-942-7571. And let me see what else I have here for you. Just like everything, we have a citywide garage sale, so you can start cleaning out. I mean, we had all that nice weather over the weekend. I seen a lot of people had a lot of stuff set out for today for trash day and what have you. But citywide yard sale, the free yard sale is Thursday, May 18th, Friday the 19th, and Saturday the 20th, and Sunday the 21st. And the rain dates will be June 1st through June 4th. But you can register at the clerk's office to get on the list. And the clerk's office's number is 734-942-7540. And that's all I really have tonight. But I know the Recreation Department has a lot of things coming up and going on. You can always go on the city website and see some of the things that are going on there. One last thing I have. On May 5th, to Friday, from 12 to 6, the courthouse is having their annual community day at the courthouse. They'll have food trucks, a car show, tours of the place, pet adoptions going on, all kinds of things, and that's open to all the public. And of course, Belleville, Huron, Sumter, Van Buren Township are all included in that for a court day out front. But come out and be a part of that, and if you want to see what it looks like on the inside on a good day, not on a bad day to be there, come on out then. But other than that, I don't really have anything else tonight.
I think that's enough.
No, I started thinking today, I was
Right.
like, man, we got so much going on, but like.
There's an awful lot for May.
It's all coming up. Seems like things were a little quiet for a little while there, and now it's amping all back up. Nice
Right.
weather's coming.
Madam Chair, if I might add a couple of more items. April 28th, they'll be celebrating the Person of the Year, Bill Wadsworth. That would be at I think it's at the Sheridan, am I right with that? That would be at
Flynn
the
Drive, the one on Flynn Drive down there by Bob Evans.
Okay, no, it's not the Sheridan, it's the Marriott. Take that back. It's the Marriott.
Yes.
The Marriott.
Yeah.
Check with the city's website on that also. And also on April 29th, there will be the Echo Fair at the Romulus Rack. And that's from 12 to 3, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. You can check on the city's website for that also. And that would be all from me.
Ms. Jemison?
Yep, just want to piggyback on Councilwoman Roscoe. So a lot of those items you mentioned, well, not a lot, but quite a few of them, they're on the Facebook page. So a lot of people don't realize, those who are on Facebook, the city posts those things, and then there's probably about a good number, maybe 6 other Romulus pages on there. There's Garden Club has their own, and Tennis has their own, and Romulus Community News has its own. I think Romulus Rocks has its own, and Stay Positive for Romulus has its own. And so there's a bunch of different people on all of those sites. So just to let people know that you can go and find some information if you can't remember to go to the city website. I also wanted to mention that the governor has been putting a lot of money in renewable energy programs. And finally, they're pushing Wayne to become part of that, which has been a little difficult. So they're having summits and meetings now, but hopefully at some point they'll start approaching some of the smaller municipalities. I don't know what Romulus can do because I don't think we can do wind turbines here, but solar maybe, but maybe on the outskirts, not near the airport, but they're working on it, and then also working on companies to help people with solar panels on their homes. But DTE is a little resistant to work with people as far as adjusting their energy bills. So, but that's something that the governor, I guess, threw a lot of money at that they're working on. So more of that to come. And then the last one, I did have a question for Celeste. Do you think they'll do a shred day this year in Romulus? A shred day?
Yeah, shred day.
Shred day. We don't have one here in Romulus.
Well, we have.
They have in the past.
Yeah, we've had it for the last couple of years.
We did, but I
Yep.
mean, I don't know when it's going to be. I haven't heard when we're going to have the shred day here.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we were going to have another one.
I have not heard when we're having that.
Yeah.
You might want to mention it. That's it for me, thank you.
That's it? Okay. Anyone else? Are they all handled? 11 is communications, and we have our project status report attached. If anyone has any questions on that?
I know, I was going over this and kind of pondering could be ready for next month, and we've got several plans that we're reviewing right now, but many of them are special land uses, and they're not, at this point anyway, clean enough, and I've got to schedule public hearings for that, so we've learned our lesson to not schedule those things too quick when site plans aren't ready. So, but there's a self-storage facility down North Line that may be ready. Are any of the others close? I don't, these other ones have public hearings, so. So keep a look at your email, and we will know shortly if it's ready, if things are ready for you. If not, you're probably gonna have a busy summer.
That's it.
That's it, unless you guys have any questions on these.
Yeah, just a quick question. So how close is Royal Farms to breaking ground?
Royal Farms, there's gonna be an update, actually, Monday night. City Council is being updated on the status of that project. You might wanna listen in. So,
I remember there was a problem with the ditch back there, the drain through Eagle, and that held it up then. I was just wondering, 'cause I look over that, I don't see too much going on with that.
no, they're gonna give North Point's gonna give a big overall update on the status of things. What time is your study session? Is it at 6:30 or?
I think for North Point, it's 6:30.
6:30, yeah.
'Cause I know there was
We got a couple things
Yeah.
that night.
I know there was a stipulation of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and
Yep.
penalties served, and I wonder if they're getting near
Yep,
that.
that's what council's gonna be updated on, all that.
And where they're at with the project.
Right, 'cause I see they got the big buildings going up.
Yep.
It's huge.
Yeah, but they can't do anything with them until they have something, until that Royal Farms or whatever is in there.
All right.
And if you want to talk about landscaping, they've
That
done
looks
a
good.
fantastic job over there so far.
Oh, yeah.
And they've just moved in a slew more of trees sitting out there by Wick Road to move back up in there.
Right.
So they're doing a great
Yeah.
job over there with presentation anyways.
I seen the one berm looks like a home and garden show model.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, amazing.
Just an interesting point, too. Coming down 94 the other day, westbound, in between Merriman and Vining, there's the airport parking right there. I see where a car exited the freeway, went through the ramp, and took out a Ford Explorer in the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
It's still sitting there.
Took out 3 vehicles.
Took out 3 vehicles in that parking lot.
Oh, wow.
So that got me thinking, like, there's no way to prevent that, really.
Well, the moral is don't
Stay
park
on the
close to
road.
the fence.
But
Yeah, that's how you prevent it. You stay on the road.
it just seems like it could have been bad if someone was between the cars. I just noticed it the other day. They get a chance,
That's a rare occurrence, though.
well, actually, not, because there was a former school employee, a woman who was eastbound on Wick Road one day and had a medical emergency and ended up on 94. Had a crash and died. I don't know, the proximity to the freeway and Wick Road, seems like in that vicinity right there is like the old way of doing it, not the new way of doing it. Wonder if the city needs to take a look at something.
That's county.
And I wonder too, like them 3 vehicles are still sitting there wrecked. Was Romulus PD involved?
Yeah, but the owner's probably still on vacation. Juliet spoke about that at our
But the car that hit
meeting.
him's gone.
Yeah, but the owner's probably, that own the
Taking care of
vehicles. Yeah, that own the vehicles that are inside.
I know, but they were on that property owner's.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting situation. I've never seen that one.
Parking owns
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Boy.
And maybe they're just waiting until the insurance companies come out and see them or
I
something.
don't know, it's pretty unique.
Well, the
Yeah.
owners come back, 'cause that's what Julie was speaking on. She said, hey, let people.
Any other questions or comments from anybody on anything? If not, I know everybody really doesn't want this to happen, but we'll go ahead and adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Who's so moved? I have a motion, excuse me, from Ms. Jamison, supported by Mr. Long, to adjourn. Ms. Jamison?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Krova?
Yes?
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
So soft. It's,
Did I get you, Mr. Bobade?
Nope.
Okay. You?
Yes.
All righty, chair votes yes, this meeting stands adjourned.